We love old cemeteries and churchyards, so come with us as we explore these places for the past. We were blown away by our visit to Tower Hamlets Cemetery Park, the first of London's magnificent 7 that we'd ever visited. So when we looked at the map and found out on the way home we drove right past Abney Park Cemetery, well, it'd be rude not to. Okay, it's a bit of an exaggeration to say we drove right past, but it only took us about 10 seconds in this place to realise that the detour was definitely worth it. This was going to be something a wee bit special.
This is Big Knobs in the Salvation Army. That is W. Bramwell Booth, who's a general in 1863 and who died, promoted to glory I guess means died, 1929, and his wife and some Salvation Army commissioners. And on the other side there is William Booth, who is the founder and the first general of the Salvation Army, again 1829, and Catherine Booth, the mother of the Salvation Army. So yeah, quite a lot of Salvation Army significance here. There is George Scott Railton, the first commissioner of the Salvation Army. Yeah, so Salvation Army, quite big in this part of the graveyard. Next to it, there's a sign that tells you all about it. We're not going to read the sign because we're here to read the gravestones. That is a memory of Edmund Thomas Bagley from 1847, died 1912. So these are all in the 1900s. I'm not totally sure when this place actually opened, but obviously we are going to find out. It would be mid-1800s sometime, like all the others of the Magnificent 7. There's Evelyn, beloved wife of the late Reverend James Fawcett Pyle, and daughter of the late Conrad Lodges of Hackney. And there is an urn with a drape on it. And here's one of these things we've seen in a couple of graveyards. It is a column, but it's broken at the top. And I didn't know if that's because things had broken off or if that's the way it is designed. But I'm beginning to suspect that's the way it is designed. It must be to signify something, or I'm talking nonsense, and actually that's the top of it there. Just ignore me. I am, as I previously said, an idiot. I do like this. This is a memory of William Stiles Esquire, an old inhabitant of St Leonard's, Shoreditch, who departed this life in 1868, aged 69. And to make sure you don't climb all over his grave, he's got big spiky anti-vandal wheels put on. A clever man. More Salvation Army graves from the 1920s. This place is incredibly busy. It's quite difficult to film bits, either without people walking past looking at me like I'm an idiot, or people being in the shot. So yep, there's Henry William Wallman, only son of the late Henry Holman of Plymouth, who 1893 he died. So yeah, we're back in the 1800s. We know we're going to get back to about 1850 here, just by experience of the other graveyards we've been to in London. But on the drive here from Docklands, we did pass a couple of little cemeteries and little small churches with small graveyards that did look very interesting. Before they built these massive sort of business graveyards where you had to pay to be buried, burials were taken care of by the local parishes. So every little parish church had its own little graveyard, and obviously a booming population and lots more people dying, they got a bit overcrowded. This is quite a nice Celtic cross, and it's Henry Allen D.D. for 48 years minister of something that I can't see, Heron Chapel, Compton Terrace, Islington. That's fairly specific. Died in 1892, I think it said. And let's see what we've got here. That is in loving memory of Rebecca Dale, who departed this life in 1921. This is a really nice wee graveyard. Now, I thought the one we were in the other day down at Tower Hamlets would take some beating, but this is a bit more grand. There must have been a bit more money in this area, I guess. I'm now walking along a path that is rapidly stopping being a path. Okay, I think we might go back. The letters are going from this one. That's the family grave of Matthew and Harriet Smith, in loving memory of their children. That would be Alice Temple, Annabelle, Flora and Elizabeth Kate, and one at the bottom who, no, I think that's just writing, but they're all born 1864, died 1865, I think that says, born 1867, died 1869, and also of Harriet and the Reverend Matthew themselves. And Matthew was for 4 years pastor of Britannia Row Congregational Chapel. So yeah, lots of religious people buried in here. Ah wow, there's something we haven't seen before. Down there is a sort of mosaic tiled slab on top of the grave. But on top of that, there's a wooden thing. I've never seen a wooden grave marker like this. And this is from any dates. Well, there's Sarah Harris and Joseph Douglas Matthews, and 1923, just down at the bottom there. That's really quite unusual. I wonder if that's original, like from the 1920s. It looks it. Oh, there we go. Alice Mead, fourth daughter of Joseph Douglas and S.H. Matthews, from 1924. There are so many people about. Anyway, let's keep going up here and see what else we can find. It's not a war grave as such, but that emblem at the top there is of the paratroops, I think. In loving memory of a dear son and brother, PTR, that's usually P. Paratrooper James Ralph Blackwell, not private, of the 6th Airborne Division Royal Army Signals Corps, who died in the local hospital, Woolwich Hospital, in 1946, and his brother, who was lost at sea in 1941, aged 16. And luckily I found a little path off to the side where there are no people. Oh, what's going on down here? This is a little tidied up arrangement of gravestones, 1953, aged 44. And there's quite a lot of them. That one that was just said was 1953, this one is also 1953, and William McLeave from 1951. So yeah, lots of 1950s gravestones all the way along here, and all getting lost in this rather photogenic but makes things difficult to read ivy. This one is mostly just people's addresses. What does that say? SYTA, I don't know. In sacred and deeply cherished memory of Sarah, the devoted, loving and beloved wife of Alfred Powell. And they're from Groombridge Road, South Hackney, and the eldest daughter of the late Mr David Dunlop of Middleton, Hartlepool, who died at Mile End, Rickmansworth. Mile End is just where we were. We were down there a couple of days ago. I said there was no people here. There's massive crowds coming in now. This bit here's quite cool because there's a bit beside the path, obviously, that you can see, but if you look over at the back there, there's lots and lots more stones. Let's do a bit of off-roading and see if there's anything interesting over. Well, it's all interesting, as I keep saying, but let's see what we can find. There is Amelia Lockyard from 1903. Okay, so yeah, we're back in the 1900s in this little bit, which is not very not very looked after at all, which I must admit, quite like. That is Isabella, 1929, aged 75 years, and there's the wall of the cemetery, and there's all the houses just outside. So this is the proverbial little green oasis. It's even more overgrown and higgledy-piggledy than the Tower Hamlets one we were at. It's yeah, I am quite liking this, but there's lots of jaggy bushes, so I think there's going to be lots of scraped ankles because I'm not wearing the right shoes for this sort of exploration. If there's a path, you'd think there would be somebody significant at the end of it. Here, I think there's just yeah, it's quite muddy, unless they're here to see the Reverend William Baker or Emma Ritchie Rees, or I think that's just a random pathian. Let's go back onto the one that is slightly less muddy. I don't think we've got anything quite like this in Scotland. I suppose there is one at Dalry in Edinburgh that is sort of similar from what I remember. I'll have to get back there soon and find out. Oh, down here there's one with a little picture on it, and that is Vera Lynn, not that Vera Lynn. If we fell asleep, 1950. So yeah, there's I think that says Vera. Hello, Vera. And there's another war grave that's not actually a war grave, but the badge in the top right hand corner of that little black tombstone. He was an air gunner and a wireless operator, and he died on an operational flight in 1943, aged 23. Yeah, I am quite liking this. Oh, not liking the look of that quite so much though. Eee. Lost in the undergrowth. There's Edwardina. Oh, not Edwina, but Edwardina. And next to Edwardina is somebody called Mary, I think. I can just about see that. And the rest of it is under the vegetation. And then in memory of Henry Mason, who passed away in 1922. God takes our loved ones from our homes, but never from our hearts. Aww. And here's lots more little graveyards. Let's see if we can find a date. The 1930s, is that? 1952, 1932, 1952. Just used as edging in front of the more impressive and probably more interesting stones over there. Little memento of George Alfred Morris, who died in 1952, age 70. Right, we're going to go this way. Oh wow, that's quite an impressive stone. I think there's much more impressive ones elsewhere from what I've seen doing a little bit of research. But that's black granite, you can't beat it. And that is Frederick Foster, who died in 1893, and his wife, who died in 1903, and their daughter, who is 1935. Right, let's keep going up this way and see what else there is to be seen. Okay, so we're now at a junction with a lot more people and a big scary looking dog. Hello. You going that way, are you? The dog's got up to look at what we've just seen, which is this Commonwealth war grave from the First World War. Air Mechanic F.H. Burkitt from the Royal Air Force. So he is from the very, very early days of the Royal Air Force. So Hello, air mechanic Burkett. I wonder if you've got many colleagues in this graveyard. We are back onto what I think is the main drag, so we're going to keep going this way. I've got to keep pointing the camera in different directions because there are literally people everywhere. There's a bit of a grander stone. That is Caroline, wife of Samuel Howard, and Samuel Howard himself, and a gap under there that we're not going to go looking at. And next to the Howard family there are 2 more Commonwealth War graves, so that's 3 we've found so far. Let's go and see when and who. Private Walker, Sussex Regiment, 1918, and Sergeant Clark, an air gunner from the Royal Air Force from 1940. So that's First World War and Second World War side by side. That's quite interesting. Almost tripped over that. It says common ash. Oh, it's a tree identification thing. So this is in memory of Anne Rust of Albion Road East, again with the addresses. And it only says Phoebe, beloved wife of Thomas Turner of Manor Road, Stamford Hill. And I've just noticed behind them, and this is muddy and trippy, and people are looking at me like I'm doing strange things. At the back, there's another little war grave stashed away. Going to have to take a shortcut over this stone from too much moss, can't see any writing, to Sergeant Quinlivan, an air gunner from the Royal Air Force in 1944. So we're now against the back wall, so we're standing talking to ourselves right outside people's houses. Lovely. And there's that thing where you get Elizabeth, beloved wife of Henry Joseph Parker, then you get her date of death, so you get Henry Joseph Parker name at the top and again at the bottom, taking up more space on his wife's headstone than she is. There is Rosina. Rosina's a name I've seen a couple of times here. It must be a popular name in this part of the world. And beside Rosina is Private Potter of the Bedfordshire Regiment, again First World War, 1918, aged 18. And behind Private Potter, that's quite impressive, isn't it? It's quite a nice stone with the 2 angels and the sort of cross thing and some leading, and that is Percy Souter Dunnett, who died in 1927. That's looking a bit squelchy. Let's see if there is a shortcut. This can only go really badly wrong. And while we're taking our shortcut, there is a very colourful gravestone. You don't often see colourful gravestone. In memory of our dear mother, Ada Maria Clapp, who fell asleep 1935. And that's quite nice, isn't it? It's got a little inlaid thing going on. Next to them, Harry Hornby Beckett from 1918. Every graveyard we go to have things that we haven't seen anywhere else, but I suppose people that have done this more often than we have. But there's another one with like a tile mosaic on top of where the person is buried, or where the people are buried. I thought this place was going to be quite nice, and that is exactly how it has turned out. There's Private Houghton of the Somerset Life Infantry from 1918. There's a path here. People must like visiting the war graves as much as we do, and that is Rifleman Munn from 1917 in the Rifle Brigade. And over there, these ones are all forgotten. I mean, these are all things that won't be documented and are tucked away and overgrown, but it's still fascinating to see it. So hello Robert Samuel Strictly something, passed away 1920 something. I can't quite see that far. There's a lot of really nice stones at this part of the cemetery, but they're not as big as the ones we're going to look at a bit later on, and they're definitely not as granite. So that is William Nicholson Dent Esquire, who died 1866. Look at that. ATAT, that must be age obviously. ATAT 69, ATAT 71, ATAT 62. I've never seen that before either. And there's somebody who is buried in Haggerston Church. I wonder if that's a Haggerston just up on the Scottish border. And next to them, oh wow, that's cool. I do like this weathering. That is Alfred Thomas Phillips. I can't see the year, 19 something under there, but she's quite nice, isn't she? I keep seeing these random little muddy paths going off, and you think there must be something interesting up this random little muddy path. So let's go and see what is up this one. I'm thinking it's going to be more gravestones, believe it or not, but yeah, it's there's quite a big thing there lying on its side. Is that something that's fallen over, or is that a slab that's shifted? I don't know. I'm just going to trip over somebody else's grave. Let's see. That is, can't actually tell. Looks a bit sarcophagus-y. And there's people's houses, so we'll just talk to ourselves all the way down here. Right, there's a path there, because there's a grave there that's still being tended. But let's get back down onto the main one. Finally, a panorama that's got no people in it. There are, as I may have mentioned, so many people in this wee cemetery, or quite big cemetery. Although most of the people here are just out for a walk with their dogs or their children, as opposed to talking to themselves and reading gravestones. It's another random path. Let's go up past Mrs. Anne Cawthorne. Relict of the late Mr. and Mrs. Cawthorne. Right, see, that's interesting. Relict means widow, obviously, but she's the widow of herself and her husband of Southwark. and Catherine, the beloved wife of Thomas Cawthorne of Walthamstow. These are all areas in London, if you didn't know. And I think the reason that this path is here is because, yep, you guessed it, it's another war grave. And this one has got an emblem on it that I don't recognise, a sort of big portcullis-y gate thing. And that is Rifleman W.V. Appleby of the Queen's Westminsters in 1917. And you can see their battle honour is South Africa, 1900 to 1902. So hello, Rifleman Appleby. And from being very busy with lots of people about, it's all gone very quiet with not a soul in sight. So I am going to make the most of it. So let's do some more talking to ourselves. That is a dear little somebody who died. Can you say anything on that? Because I can't. The name is unfortunately missing. And next to dear little whoever that was, we've got John Covington from 1896. And moving up this way, we have got Mary Ann Amelia Hagar from 1932. So again, it's quite a sort of jump in dates from the 1800s to the 1900s and then back again. And there's something that's all smashed up. We are not going to go and look inside. We are not going to go and look inside. We are, there's nothing there. Thankfully. And there's a surname that I've never seen before. While we're looking for things we don't know, there is Frances Elizabeth Toomey, or Fanny to our friends, because everybody here has got the same sort of height apart from old Charles Alexander there, who's got a statue over there who has unfortunately lost her head. It's all got quite busy again, so we'll just keep walking and keep talking. The good thing is in London nobody looks at anybody else or engages with anybody else. Other places people say hello on the way past, here they don't, so nobody's going to say anything to me. Well, I think we're almost done one complete length of this graveyard, and that's just one side of it, so we're going to turn around now and go back and see what's down the path the other way. Hello. I'm quite liking that as well. I see these and I always wonder where the bodies actually are, which is probably a stupid thing to say because I imagine they're all underground. But if you watch some of the other much more professional YouTube channels, they do occasionally find things like bits of people. I'm not sure how keen I will be on that. Going past that Art Deco one from 1930s, we're back in the 1840s with Mr. John Slater of Stewart Street, Spitalfields. I wonder if one day all these will get documented and if you get a map and you could actually dot out all the people's houses and find all the houses of people that are actually buried here. That'd be really exciting. That would be an episode of Places for the Past that no one would watch. This is the family grave of the Westlakes. Our first dear baby Cyril, who died in 1925, aged 2.5. Thine angel has sung thee to sleep. And also Henry Westlake and Maud Westlake. At this bit the graves are a bit more densely packed. I don't know if this is 1911. Let's see, we see a date here. These ones are more modern, I'm guessing 1950s. Yeah, lots and lots of 1950s burials in these cemeteries. Looks like a tree has fallen over. It's made a bit of a mess over here because there's lots of smashed tombstones and cut up bits of tree. So yeah, old Cassie, Cecilia Maria Picton of Castleton, who departed life in 1923, has had her tombstone knocked over. And this person over here, who is Mary Ann Glover, has actually had hers completely tipped up. And there's an inscription we haven't seen before. I don't know what that means. Sacred to the memory of Sophia Caroline Whittle. Obviously I know what that bit means. Relict, we now know, means widow of the late Censurius. I don't know who Censurius was, who died in 1851. Is Censurius on the stone? No, it's Elizabeth Akers, beloved wife of Thomas Akers of Trafalgar Square, Stepney from 1860, and Thomas David Akers and blah blah blah. Nope, I don't know who Censorius was. Okay, we are in the top corner of the graveyard, so we're going to keep looping round and go right round the outside, and then we'll have a wee walk through the middle. That sounds like a plan, yeah? Okay, let's play Spot the Squirrel. Hello, Mr. Squirrel. So we are off the beaten path again, so hopefully this bit will be a bit quieter. People have started walking past looking at me now. I think I'm probably getting noticed, which is not hard when you've got a GoPro on a big stick with a fluffy microphone. It's just too good to resist. There is the grave of the graves. That is Alan Frederick Graves' grave. That is the grave of Mr. Graves in his grave. And opposite it is this, which is quite modern, I think. Celebrated aeronaut and first British woman to fly solo in 1826. Ah, right, wow. Hello, Margaret Graham. I don't think this is actually your tombstone, but it's an interesting bit of history. We'll have to find out who Margaret Graham was. It's another place you could easily spend quite a lot of time. Unfortunately today I don't have quite a lot of time. I'm heading back north, but I think we'll definitely be back down in London. We've got to do all of the Magnificent Seven. two identical gravestone blanks side by side but for different families. That is the family grave of John and Margaret Shepherd, and it is Margaret Eliza, their daughter, and Emily Gemma, aged 21 months, and them themselves. Next to that it is, there's a shepherd on there as well actually, Charles Shepherd, so I wonder if those two are related. Looking at the ground, I think they might be, because they're sharing a bit, they've got a bit fenced off with curbstones for themselves. And there's something that is standing out from everything round about it. That is, I think, made out of slate. Let's have a wee look. Yes, that is made of slate. So that is going to last forever. That's the family grave of Ezekiel Michael Wallace Sislebirth. Yes, something like that. That's probably not their name, and they're probably quite upset that I got it so wrong. As we're sticking to the outside path, we have to go to the left. And surprisingly, to the left there is Sergeant Pearce of the Bedfordshire Regiment, buried elsewhere in the cemetery. See that at the top? You usually see that in places like Belgium and France, where people were buried but no records were kept. But he is from the First World War, 14th of November 1960. There's old Jack Kent from 1922, and here's a grander stone. Again, just to show you I'm not making it up, all the other stones around here are about the same height, and then there's one big one from somebody who had a bit more money, and that was Ebenezer Spencer of 24 Stewart Street, Spittal Square and Edgware, Middlesex, who died after a short illness in 1874. And I think we're about to emerge back onto the main road. So let's keep going up here and see. Well, I keep saying keep going up here. Stop saying keep going up here, Ian. There's a gate up there, but I don't think it's a gate that we came in, so we're just going to, we've got nowhere else to be really, so we're just going to keep going. Yeah, we're definitely getting grander as we get towards that gate as well. There's Joseph Exall Greenough with his rather nice cross that is unstable, and then there's Reverend Edwards Manor, 50 years pastor of the church on Jury Street, Holywell Mount and Bishopsgate. And next to that, this is my favourite stone so far. It is really, really nicely weathered, and that is Thomas Botwright, who died in 1839, interred at St Leonard's, Shoreditch, and Maria Botwright, helper of many, who died aged 79, interred in this grave in 1881. Definitely much grander up here. That's nice, isn't it? That's got some degree of carving on it. Okay, and I've just spent the last 5 minutes trying to decipher this. This is in memory of Samuel Robinson Esquire, who in his lifetime founded and endowed the adjoining retreat for the comfort of 12 widows of Protestant dissenting ministers professing Calvinistic principles. That's quite impressive. That is all granite, a sort of chest tomb with an urn on top. And then, yeah, this is obviously a slightly more affluent end of the graveyard, because there's much bigger stones here. So we're going to go up here and see exactly where we are, because I've kind of lost. I think I've just come one length at this place, but I'm not quite sure. I might have walked around in a big circle and be back at the start. Oh, and that one is from 1978. There's no way this place was still in use in 1978, is there? Well, clearly it was because of that, but you wouldn't think so. Although 1972 and whatever that is over there, yeah, this is still in use, or was still in use comparatively recently. And there's quite an impressive memorial beside the gate, and that is, let's see if we can see, somebody Briggs. It is George Briggs. Have we got any sort of date? 1925 there, so yeah, quite nice. Right, we're not where we started, so let's keep going round this way. And no matter how tall you make your memorial, there's always somebody who's going to come along and make one bigger. Let's see if we can see a name on this. There are some faint letters left there, but I can't see anything, but it's it's quite a large one. Even she's something to look up to it. These are very, very grand. This is Charles Aubrey Day from 1909. Oh, and down the bottom his son, who's killed in 1941. And then there is Lewis George something, I can't see, and Edward D. Morgan of Newcastle Street, Strand, who died in 1886. And probably the best sort of lettering, John McCall, JP LLC, who died in 1894. Called away to the higher life. And then these two are just brilliant. Look at the state of those. I mean, the quality of the sculpture is one thing, and the quality of the inscription and how well it has lasted, those are both very impressive. That's Thomas Brooks Brown of Russell Square and Queen Victoria Street, and that is my devoted husband Philip Edward Griggs, who fell asleep in 1895. yeah, those are amazing. That is just, wow. Again, there's loads and loads of interesting stuff lost over there in the undergrowth. I am not going in there to find that. You can just use your imagination. Here is, it's another war grave. I don't know how many there are in this cemetery. We only usually find like a small proportion of the ones that are actually there. This is a lieutenant, an officer from the First World War. Lieutenant Bennett from the Notts and Derby Regiment, who died in 1917. That is the Fraser family, and it's got their date of death and their age at the right hand side in a big neat column, so you can see it really easily. So there's 76 and 82 and then 25 and 14 and 39 and 3 and then 5 weeks, and then they start putting years at the end, so you know the difference between weeks and years, because up to then they must have all made it to years, and then little Adeline Ellie Garriach only made it to 5 weeks, their great granddaughter. This place is another one that is a lot bigger than you think. Don't think we're even halfway around the perimeter and we haven't yet touched the middle bit, so just keep going and see what we can see. I believe, again from extensive research, which was a 2-minute Google before we got here, there is a chapel here as well, so definitely going to try and find that. I think we've found the sort of posh and expensive bit, so let's see who is here. Francis John William Palmer of Yokohama, Japan. Okay, that sounds like a Japanese name. And one there that is cowping backwards into the ground. And Thomas Binney has got quite a big obelisk, and he was born in Newcastle in 1798 and died in 1874. And then we've got this, which is just a big lump of rock, and that is Alexander Raleigh, born at the Flock, Galloway in 1817 and died in 1850. So yeah, this is getting into the posher bit. So look at this one in front of us. That is a lovely little chapel, and that is in loving memory of Mary Magdalene and Augusta Matilda, the wife of an MP, Henry Richard MP, and this is from the early 1900s, I think 1907 there, 1941 there. Yeah. What a cool little building. That is definitely somebody with a few pounds in the bank. And that's the sort of thing that you usually find as like a statue in a public space. That is just somebody's tombstone, and that somebody is written on the front of it. And can I see it, or at least see a date? No, I can't. It's there, but I can't see it. And there's another little private burial vault chapel thing, and the Salvation Army. Oh, we're back at the start, I think we're back where we came in. So I didn't see this. That is Dr. Rogers' family tomb, and yeah, there's nobody home. With Lottie, the wife of Charles Henry Hills from 1904, and Percival John Alston from 1903, we have come full circle. So now we're going to go in and try and find the middle bit and the chapel. A little bit of off-roading. We're going to go down. Oh, there's a big granite thing. That looks quite modern though. So let's go and find out if this is another modern tomb. I think it might be. Let's go for it. I'm just waffling now so I can keep going till I get there. It is from 1920 something, but again the leading has been removed. Quite funny that Henry, his whole name's gone. Wonder who's been stealing Henry. Another Salvation Army grave. That is a devoted wife and a true mother, Sarah Jane, wife of Commissioner Randolph J. Sturgis. Right, we're going to go down here and look for the middle, and then we're going to see if we can find the oh wow. And then you look down and there's lots of little tombstones just at the side. This place is amazing. These graveyards in London are just unbelievable, because they're just like this. They're just woods and forests, but with lots and lots of tombstones inside them. Quite liking it. Oh, and what's this? This is the Metropolitan Borough of Stoke Newington, to the memory of all those who lost their lives through enemy action in the borough during World War 1939 to 45, and in particular of those whose names are inscribed on this memorial. Alright, so that is civilians who were killed in the bombing. Like Coronation Avenue obviously got battered in October 1940, and then Green Lanes got hit in October 1940, and St Matthew's Square January 1941, Lidfield Road, Lodsborough Road, Defoe Road, Hermitage Road, and Coronation Avenue continued. So yeah, that's the dates and the places where people died. That's whole families wiped out by German bombs, like 9 persons unidentified. There's lots and lots of these little stones down here as well. 1947 on that one. Any more dates, 1948. So yeah, they're not wartime graves, they're just shortly after. That's quite interesting, that, and there's lots and lots of them. But let's keep going down this way. Some very grand things down here. Now I can see a big spire in front of me through the trees. I don't know if that is the chapel in here or if a church outside, but we're going to go and find out, obviously, after we go past Mary Ann Walker, dearly beloved wife of Alfred Walker of Winchmore Hill, who died in 1874 and was worthy of a great big tombstone. And then Eliza Charlotte, what a nice name, Eliza Charlotte, from 1858. On this side, more of these little things, and behind them, more of those big chest type tombs. You can see the people that had the money, can't you? That's John Morley of Upper Clapton, and that's various members of his family there. There's Samuel, his son, and Rebecca, who was Samuel's wife. And then there's more down here. I'm just trying to get down towards this chapel before my battery runs out or I run out of memory space on the GoPro, in memory of George Bowes of Homerton, who died in 1856. And then that's quite impressive, eh? That's two little tombs there, but the one next to it, sacred to the memory of John Jay, is it's all very, very ornate. That probably cost a couple of quid back in the day. It's all really, really nicely overgrown. Ebenezer Pye Smith. Ebenezer's a name we've seen a few times in this graveyard that we've never seen anywhere else. And this is Philip Henry Pye Smith, who is BAMD-FRCP-FRS, who was born in 1839 and died in 1914. And down the bottom there is Lieutenant Philip Howson Guy Pye Smith of the 11th Battalion, the King's Liverpool Regiment, who is the only child of Philip and Gertrude Pye Smith, who was killed near Arras. Near Arras is in inverted commas, because that's what they would have been told. They were killed near Arras in the service of King and Country, died in 1917. This is a really good stone. I'm liking this memorial. This is the side of the one we just looked at, Ebenezer Pye Smith, FRCS, second son of John Pye Smith, who after a long life of Christian usefulness passed to the higher service, greatly beloved and honoured in 1885. And right next to me, I'm actually standing on the vault of Mrs. Sarah Hale. So sorry, Mrs. Hale, I didn't notice you were there. They've had their ivy ripped off, and it just leaves an amazing patina. It's just such a cool place. Loving it, loving it, loving it. Are you loving being up there? A bit chilly? Sorry. Lots of fairly late tombstones, I think, comparatively. I'm going to say 1950s, because that's, yes, 1950s. You start to recognise the general sort of shape. All facing this dude here up on top of his pillar. So let's go and find out who the statued gentleman is. Alright, the guy at the top is Isaac Watts, DD, in testimony of the high and lasting esteem in which his character and writings are held. Never heard of him. That's really smart, that one. That is something that is... wonder why it says 403 up there. That is sacred to the memory of William Fridge. 403 was his police number. I'm guessing this guy was a policeman, because that's a policeman's helmet. And sacred to the memory of William Frederick Tyler, aged 31 years, Police Constable 403 of the North Division. I like that. Metropolitan Police Force, who was killed at Tottenham while bravely doing his duty on the 20th of January 1909. And the monument is erected to his memory by the officers and men of the Metropolitan Police Force, as a mark of their deepest appreciation of his gallant conduct, faithful unto death. That is cool. That's a thing with a proper story. This graveyard is quite famous for having quite a lot of what they call nonconformists. Nonconformists were Christians who practised their Christianity out with the Church of England, so they were sort of looked on with suspicion by the authorities. They all congregated in Stoke Newington. This was a sort of hotbed of nonconformism. Also a hotbed of abolitionism, apparently, because people in London were making money from slavery, and a lot of people up here were campaigning against it and working against it. So yeah, it's a radical place. And for anybody that says, if he stops and says hello to one more war grave, I am definitely stopping watching and unsubscribing and telling all my friends to do the same. You might want to do all those things, because I've just spotted through the trees a cross of sacrifice. Through the trees and past the big muddy puddle. Anyway, let's go past Nehemiah. What's that say? Sacred to the memory of Nehemiah Death Esquire. Alright, right, down this way there is a cross of sacrifice and a chapel, so let's go and look at those, and that'll be about it for today, I think. There you are, told you, cross of sacrifice, and at the back is the War Memorial, which is names from the First World War and the Second World War. Interesting thing, under here are the catacombs where they used to bury bodies, but then catacombs in a damp climate aren't a great idea. And there is the cross of sacrifice. And this memorial is to men who are buried here but don't have their own headstone, which happened quite a lot because there was quite a lot of bodies to get rid of, so headstones could not always be made quickly enough and records were not always good enough. But there's lots and lots of names of people who are here somewhere. There is the chapel. We've been to a few graveyards of late where they used to have chapels but they've been demolished. This one is still hanging on just about. I think there's a very, very motivated group of local people doing a lot of work to get this thing renovated and restored and made usable as a community space. We said this was a nonconformist graveyard, and that chapel is deliberately not invoking any particular religion. It's not particularly a Church of England type church, so anybody can be buried in it. Interestingly, it's also never been consecrated, so it's not holy ground, so anybody of any denomination or none could use it for their funeral. Right, definitely leaving now, but we're going to stop beside Lieutenant Jackson of the Middlesex Regiment. Again, First World War. It's almost all First World War war graves in this cemetery, which is quite interesting. We have really enjoyed this wee explore. That's 2 down and 5 to go. Okay, I know I said I was leaving, but look at that. That's another one that's very intricately charged, and that is the Bidcood family, I think. Yeah, Alex Masters Bidcood and Mary, wife of Alex Bidcood from 1951. So that's, again, people who could afford to have a really nice headstone made. It's somebody else from the First World War. This is Private CTA Gaze of the Royal Army Service Corps from 1919. And behind him, I'm guessing the rest of the family, is the Gaze family. Elizabeth Gaze and Thomas Gaze and Francis Sarah Gaze. And down the bottom, Thomas William Gaze, son of the above, who departed in 1902, aged 56. So this is Thomas William Gaze's family plot, and they have added CTA glaze to it. And with that rather po-faced angel lady up there, I think that's us. We'll call it a day and we'll start heading north. This has been an amazing wee graveyard. Again, it's a place where you could probably spend days and days exploring, but yeah, not going to this trip. May well be back. Lots and lots of silence. Right, this is Thomas Goss Shore, who was 1868, aged 73, and his wife, and that's a nice wee stone. But we are now definitely leaving. I know I keep saying that and then keep not doing it. Today we are doing it. Yesterday on the DLR we saw that spire in the distance. I said we'd probably never know what it was. Well, we have, because Dex and I have just ran past it. It is All Saints Church. And if you're wondering where the graveyard is, and no, we're not doing another big graveyard thing here, I'm standing on it, but all the stones have quite neatly been moved round the side. So let's go and see if we can see a date or two. But not there, because that's a bus stop and people will think I'm a bit weird talking to myself. There's a brick-built coffin tomb, never seen one of them before. That's a little bit different, isn't it? That's the bit at the top looks much newer than the bit at the bottom, and that is sacred to the memory of George Thomas Ramage. Right, I'm just going to go around this church and see what else I can see, because it is actually quite interesting. Oh, that's quite a cool looking tomb, isn't it? I think this bit's probably... oh no, it's open. Oh, let's go for a wee look. That's quite impressive, isn't it? This is a nice wee private bit. Lucky that gate was open. Hopefully I won't get shouted at. Look at the work that's gone into that though. That's quite nice. Just to outdo the person next to him. It's actually not got an inscription I can see anywhere around it. How about on the top? No, nothing there either. That is somebody Bernard Biddulph. Let's have a look and see if we can see what that name actually is. It is Mary Burnett Biddulph, the wife of Mr. John Biddulph of Lombard Street. They've all got their streets. That's something that used to be there but isn't anymore. What's over here? This is quite a nice wee corner, isn't it? And it's quite an imposing church, going out past the family vault of Mr. John Francis of this parish. Yeah, what a nice church. Oh, there's the front of it. Let's have a look at it from the front, because that is usually the most impressive elevation. It's yeah, it's quite a big old building, isn't it? It's really cool. And obviously the gravestones just add a bit of ambience. So the gravestones are all the way along that side and all the way along that side. This has been quite an interesting little stop.